it's so important for artists like yourself to showcase your work at events like this.
It's a great way to give exposure to the Haitian people.
So I'm J.R. Rivera, and I'm here at the Art of Black Miami.
It's not a conclusive work. I made it so it could start conversation.
What's up, y'all? It's your girl, Dina Adine. We are at the opening kickoff reception.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Dimitri. I'm here with Art of Black at Basil Bay.
Follow artofblackmiami.com, of course, on their website, and the hashtag artofblackmiami.
Hello, and welcome to Just Talking Business. I am Stephanie Ben-Bark, and I'm a small business owner. I have a confession to make. Just a few seconds ago, we started this show, and I forgot to record. So I apologize for that. Anyway, today we are going to be talking to a young woman who is going to give us all the scoop about health and wellness. I've been thoroughly intrigued by that industry, and also a little secret that I forgot to say the first time around. As many of you know, when I wear pink or green, that is because I'm talking to a soror or one of my sorority sisters. So I am again today. Welcome, Ashley Glass. Hi, how are you?
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me on, Soror.
Anytime. I got that's our little secret code, pink and green. I'm talking to. So tell me, first of all, who are you and what do you do?
So I am Ashley Glass. I'm the owner and founder of Black Women Cultivating Change, and it is a nonprofit organization where we work to reduce the stigma related to mental health and wellness in the Black community here in the South region of Ohio. So
okay, perfect. So the name of your company is Black Women. Wait, I had it written down. Black Women Cultivating Change. What would be your products? What would you be offering? What services would you offer?
Sure. So we host community events, and we host community events. We do advocacy. I also do public speaking engagements, as well as we connect people to therapists, to Black therapists. So we have a lot of relationships with Black therapists in the area, so we can connect you directly to some of our Black therapists in the region. So
that's what I was kind of intrigued by as I was looking at your website. It seems like you've taken a different approach to health and wellness. There are people who do yoga, and there are people who, offer meal plans, et cetera, or workout, just flat. Yeah. But you seem to be approaching both mental health spectrum, as well as providing a service. I don't think anybody's ever thought about what made you sort of take that direction in health and wellness.
Sure. So what made me take this direction is I myself suffer from anxiety and kind of seasonal depression, and I've gone through some traumatic experiences in my life. And I really wanted to help people that look like me. My background's in public health, so I see a lot of data and statistics related to the disparity, especially for people in the Black community. And notice there's a huge just stigma related to mental health. Nobody really wants to talk about it, or will pray about it. Hope it just yeah, nature. But there are a lot of resources out here if we tap into them. And so I just really wanted to make the conversation more comfortable. I always share with everybody, and I'm very transparent about my experiences because I believe that helps me build relationships and makes other people comfortable to talk about what they're experiencing and things of that nature.
So what challenges then? You kind of tapped on one a little bit earlier. This is an industry that mental health is something the African American community really just does not accept very well. We're working on it.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little about the opportunities and the potential in terms of your business, as well as the challenges,
So the potential, we really want to be kind of the go-to nonprofit organization here in the South region of Ohio when it comes to mental health, anything mental health. So when it comes to, traumatic experiences, counseling, therapy, we've been talked about this whole theoretical, I guess you could say theoretical idea of community healing centers. So going to our inner city neighborhoods and having an actual place where people can feel safe and come and get non-traditional mental health treatments. So like Reiki and just different spiritual practices and different things like that, but also be connected to therapists as well. Because we found a lot of Black individuals are leaning more to spirituality. So we also like to connect kind of the spiritual element to mental health as well.
Okay.
Yes. And then we also have tapped into the documentary space, which I did not mention before, but we plan on doing more documentaries on mental health and the stigma and just kind of signs and symptoms and use it as an educational tool.
Well, actually, I'm glad you brought that up because that was one of those things that, again, as I was looking at your website, it seemed like the filmmaking is where you're scaling your business.
Yes.
How did that come to be, and how do you think that it's benefiting community and your company?
Yeah. So it came to be just because I myself love documentaries, and I was thinking of, man, this would be really cool if we could promote mental health or health and wellness on the big screen. So people can watch it from the comfort of their own home. They don't necessarily have to leave their house to get this information. So that's how documentaries came to place. I directed my first documentary last year called Boss, and we looked at imposter syndrome in Black women. So I interviewed 16 women in leadership positions, and they talked about their stories and challenges on their roads to success. So how they had to overcome that little voice inside of them, telling them, they couldn't do this, or why are you doing that? Also, the external barriers, such as their peers and instructors and coworkers telling them, that they didn't belong there or they shouldn't be pursuing their goals that they were trying to accomplish. So the reason I did that is I just wanted to inspire other young women. I knew all of these women personally, and they've helped me on my road to success, but I wanted it to be available for anybody to see. Because I think a lot of times when we see successful women, we don't know their story of how they got to where they are. And so that's what kind of inspired me to do that one.
So I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you suffer from imposter syndrome? And what do you do to overcome it?
Absolutely. I do. What I do to overcome it, so I like to kind of ground myself. I'm really into meditation and just kind of going within. I had to deal with a lot of past traumatic experiences and healing because I found that a lot of things were triggering to me that I was not addressing. Led to me having low self-esteem and just not thinking I can accomplish certain things. So I think what I always tell people, therapy has saved my life too. Mm-hmm. So I'm just having a therapist, making sure I'm pouring into myself and encouraging myself. So whenever I have those thoughts come in my head, I try to combat it with a positive thought or, just try to get myself back. Yeah.
I was asking a friend yesterday, actually, a man, and I don't think I've ever heard this in a man, this imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And especially when you talk about entrepreneurship, that seems very prevalent in other women as I'm talking to other women. So this, what would your advice be to, especially for a small business owner? First of all, are you finding that in the male community? Are you finding that challenge in the male community?
It actually isn't. Yeah, I was going to say it is in males. I think we just talk about it more, whereas men don't want to be perceived as weak or that sort of thing. So I don't think they share what's going on as much. But men do experience this too as well. So it happens in both genders. But and you said, what was the second part of the question?
What's your advice for an entrepreneur who is, hitting a wall because they're struggling in that area?
My biggest advice, besides getting a therapist, would be connecting and networking with other entrepreneurs, because I have found surrounding myself with people that are kind of on the path of where I'm going or have already, been down that road has really helped. I at first was looking for kind of like close friends and family to be that encouragement, and it's like you need someone who's gone down that path or that road to be able to truly help you in this world of entrepreneurship. Excuse me. So yes, I think that's
to that. I agree.
Yes. So building those relationships, I think that's huge, because then they can also connect you with other people, which connect you with other people, which puts you in different situations or opportunities to kind of uplift you.
So you did a second movie. I want to make sure we mention that before you leave.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the second movie as well. I mean, before we go to another subject.
Yeah, so the second one was on Black fatherhood. So we wanted to capture positive imagery of Black men and really enforce how important they are, not only in our families, but the community as a whole. Mm-hmm. It's called Presence Over Presence. And we captured 5 stories from 5 different fathers here in Cincinnati, from all different walks of life. And we captured their side as well as their kids' side. So it's a really good, just positive depiction of Black fatherhood. We actually just recently developed a training that's going to be Ohio approved, and we're going to be presenting at a conference, an early childhood conference, and we hope to use this too as an educational tool.
Okay.
Yeah, because we not only want to help the Black community, we also want to educate people who don't look like us too. So
As to how to manage those
Yeah.
kind of things as well. So let's go back a little bit into the business aspect of it. I promised I would not ask you about your money. But I am intrigued about how you make your money. What are the products and the services? You know, I don't need to know the amount, but
Yeah.
how would you charge, or do you charge, or how does that
So honestly, right now, how we make our money to function is we charge for some of our events. I also do like event planning, so different authors in the area will host like book releases, and as long as it's related to self empowerment or mental health, that's another way to build revenue. And then we get sponsorships and look for grants. So that's our biggest area of funding is sponsorships and grants.
When did you start the business?
September 2020. So we're 2 years.
Okay, during during the pandemic.
Yes, during the pandemic, which
That
is
has been- It's just like that has been a really interesting conversation I've been noticing. We've talked a lot about how mental health has really come to the forefront. They're in a variety of different ways, some good, some bad, in that spectrum. And I noticed on your website you did a video where you were talking to young people. What are you finding? Are you finding that your services are much more needed in that particular demographic? And what about young women? Like, are we just
So
kind of going through our day to day?
yeah, so we started out with a focus on women and girls,
Mhm.
and then we got kind of pulled to men, and then we got so it's like I
But
have
that's
finding
good.
that it's more like everyone. So we've kind of broadened our focus because it really is a holistic. Like the community needs this mental health
Right,
and
right.
wellness, resource. So, and I forget the second question you asked. So,
Oh, I was just asking, what about the young women? How are they handling?
oh, young women, yes. So we actually had a program for young women earlier this year, and there's definitely a need, especially in youth. If you look at all the behavioral issues, and I know last week we had like a active shooter, but it was it wasn't a real situation, but it was like a social media thing. So there's a lot of behavioral issues going on that are bubbling up. I've actually subbed recently too in the schools, and what I tell people is we're dealing with kids who are having behavioral issues, but we're also dealing with adults who are burnt out. Teachers and administrators are burnt out, and I don't think we ever addressed COVID. And I think we're going to keep on losing teachers and administrators if we don't deal with the two, because there's two separate things. So you have the teachers who aren't teaching or effectively managing the classrooms, and then we have the kids who are just totally not focused, being able to focus. Even the ones who want to, there's so much behavioral issues going on, they can't.
So I deal with an organization that deals with social and emotional learning. I too myself didn't know what that was.
Mhm.
Is that something that you think could really impact and make a real powerful change in
Absolutely. Mhm.
world? And if you
Yeah.
don't mind, share a little bit about what social emotional learning is and
Sure.
how you think it can have that.
Mhm. So with social emotional learning is just kind of looking at your conflict resolution. How do you interact with others, your peers, a teacher, everyone in society, pretty much. I think it's huge, and I think it needs to be built in the curriculum. It's just as important as everything else, if you ask me, because we all need to know how to manage our emotions. I mean, if you look at the crime rates and different things like that, it all stems to either trauma or ineffectively being able to handle either a stressful or emotional state.
Right.
Period. And so I think we really need to look at that as just as important as learning our times tables or our history or whatever the case may be in the classroom, because if you have issues going on socially and emotionally, it's going to affect everything else. You're not going to be able to learn or take in the information or even focus if you've got some social emotional things going on.
Okay.
So for me, that's even more important than
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So wait. your day-to-day operation. You seem like you're busy.
Yeah.
And how do you manage your day?
So,
Just your calendar. What how,
so I am gonna say just now start to really look at, you can't just accept every meeting request. It can't just because then you end up either missing something or so I think I have done a good job at really setting my hours to really fit a work life balance, so I'm not working all the time, because I am an entrepreneur, but I also have a job and then I'm in school, so I'm juggling a lot of different pieces.
right.
And so just being cognizant of your, I guess, your time and hours and how much you put on your plate. Um,
So how do you manage having a job and being an entrepreneur? That almost feels like 24 hours a day. So
and so,
where you structure
um,
that day looks like.
yeah, I would say I try to set aside time to where I know if I need to focus on my, job responsibilities, that I do, so that it doesn't get too overwhelming. And then also cutting off in the evening too, so I'm not continuing to work the 24 hours a day.
Right.
One thing I do need to do, I probably that I've been really thinking about, is removing my email from my phone as well, especially on my business, just
Okay.
because I can get, I don't need to answer the,
I can do that too.
you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, I can do
There
that too.
needs to be
Get
more-
bogged down in email.
yeah,
Distraction.
yeah. So there's some areas of opportunity that I need to kind of delineate that, but um, I think just establishing specific times for both things has been really helpful. So I know from this time to this time is work, but this time to this time I'm going to focus on Black women cultivating change. So
Do you have staff to help you, or are you sort of contract out services when you need?
So right now we either contract out services. We have a board, so they help as far as volunteer wise and like planning for events and things of that nature too. So right now we're functioning on that. Hopefully we are trying to get to a space to where we will have staff to be able to relieve some of the responsibilities off of myself. So yeah,
Exactly.
that is the goal. That's the goal.
So let's look down the road. Um, and by the way, the industry, I mean, again, I've just been really blown away. I was reading that health and wellness is now a $20 billion industry since 2019, and then a global $4.4 trillion industry. So it really is the place to be and the space to be. How do you carve out your little space of that? Have you really been able to be an active participant in that growth? Um,
I would say no. And the reason is because the system is kind of broken, especially for people who look like me and you. And
okay,
I think that um, one of my goals, or what I see for us, is hopefully eventually we can start receiving more funding, or be able to have more support from larger healthcare organizations, because we're more prevention focused.
okay,
And a lot of times with mental health, they're more crisis management, or when things are already to a certain point. Okay, now we got to deal with this. Whereas we're trying to get people to understand the importance of preventing before it gets that bad. Like
right.
we need the education, we need the advocacy, we need to just have the resources so people don't get to those places. And so
And then when you say the system is broken, because it feels like to me, it sounds like it's the same as health insurance.
mhm,
You get all the help after you already got a disease.
yeah.
But
Oh,
in what way is it broken? I
so
mean,
there's a lot of disparities. A lot of when we talk about mental health specifically, there's a lack of Black providers, which can tend to lead to misdiagnosis if you're not going to a provider that looks like you. Things of that nature. Hard to access providers. They're not accessible, especially in the lower income areas. Therapy can be a barrier if you can't afford it. A lot of the Black providers have separated and have private practices or private pay, because they don't get reimbursed through like Medicaid and different insurance companies. They don't get a lot of money for doing that. So people have gone to more private pay, which then means it's inequitable, because
Correct. You
can't
can't
afford
afford
it.
that. Yeah.
And so just I think for me, because my background is public health, I look at healthcare like, first of all, I don't think it should be a for-profit business, but it's kind of turned into that.
Right.
And I think we've lost focus in actually caring for individuals,
I agree.
and not making money off of their sick business. So
I actually spoke to a woman who is also in your space, and she stopped accepting insurance because she was such a quagmire.
yeah,
And I asked her, do you feel like you're going to lose some of your audience? And she had to be honest. She said the same thing. I'm not
yeah,
going to touch my people because
yep,
we don't have the money, that we don't
yep,
have a luxury for that.
yep.
So then would your goal really be to focus on the policy?
Yeah, more policy and advocating for policy, but also, so I'm in school for nursing, and the reason I'm in school for nursing isn't to be a floor nurse per se. It's more of to get the clinical experience to connect the dots.
Okay.
So why are we charging this? What are our priorities when people are in the hospital or coming in? In interacting with the healthcare system, and why isn't mental health a priority? So I want to be able to make changes that way, as well as get into academia as well, because we're not being even taught as health professionals how to take care of certain um, cultures or ethnicities, or it's kind of like you're bred to be this way, if that makes sense, in the healthcare space. So I really want to do a lot of change within the academic space as well.
So let's look 5 years down the road. Where will Black women cultivating change? Short term.
Yeah. So
midterm.
5 years down the road, I hope we are fully staffed. I hope that we are not only reaching here locally, but maybe even able to reach other states or regions in Ohio. As just like I said, be a household name that people know. If they need any sort of mental health resources, they can count on us to have either connections with, like I said, therapy, could be even a crisis hotline, could be us responding to some situations, and then like advocacy and preventative work too as well.
Now, you said you're a nonprofit and you feel like there is a challenge with the for-profit world.
Mhm.
And honestly, I've talked to other nonprofits. I've never heard of one thinking maybe there's a bit of a competition going on. Or is that what you feel? And do you think that has an impact on what you do?
Did you say a competition between the four?
Yeah, sort of,
Yes, I would say not a competition, but it does make it challenging because people have found that you could profit off of this stuff. Where it's like finding the balance. Like,
okay.
yes, of course, everybody needs to keep their lights on and things like that, but also not preying on others because they have these illnesses. So where is the ethical balance? I guess you could say.
And so you're talking about the private practice side of mental health.
Private or even preventative side too, because people can see an issue and kind of not have the right intentions, and I think if the right intentions aren't there, it could be you could miss the mark of truly helping others, if that makes sense.
Right. Are you in your market sort of the only person doing that in a nonprofit space, or are there others?
Right now, I would say we provide most of the mental health programming here. Yes,
Okay.
for nonprofit space.
Okay. Do you think there will be others that will come into that space?
Yes,
Yeah.
I think I think people are getting the hint that, hey, mental health, we need to address this. And so I think there will be other organizations, but again, I think the gap is truly with so you have the larger organizations who their focus is not the Black community, and then you have more grassroots organizations. And so where all the funding usually goes to the larger organizations, which is missing the Black community. And so I think we're going to start to see a lot more grassroots organizations get larger amounts of funding because they're seeing, the issues are really residing in our communities, and how can we look at this in different ways than more traditional ways that they have in the past. So,
And very historical too. I mean, they're generational. I had a woman tell me one time that Black males in particular don't like going to the doctors, because basically they just don't trust it based on the Tuskegee experiment. I was like, that was before they were born.
Yeah, but and then if you look at COVID too, a lot of us didn't go get the vaccine because of the same, like there's that trust is lost. And I was kind of upset as a healthcare professional how we marketed it. I think we didn't do a good job. I think we could have did a better job, and just using these experiences to say, hey, we can't just come into people's communities or neighborhoods and think they're going to trust us without,
Right. With the needle.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like you wanted to come knocking on people's door here, but were you doing that in the suburban areas?
Right.
So why did you think we were going to respond? So it's just a lot of, not a lot of communication, I guess or relationship building within the community still. So
I spoke to another woman who is also in the medical field, and she said the same thing. She felt like the way it was marketed to our first them. And then, I guess it took us a little while, but to figure out. But I also feel like part of that disparity is when they're making these decisions, there's someone like us sitting at the table to have
absolutely, yeah.
So are you finding that in your current position, you are able to be more at those tables to have those conversations?
Yes, but I will say it's challenging. I mean, you have to seek it out yourself. It's not that they're recruiting this. You have to literally be passionate about this and be persistent. Pretty much make a space for yourself. And so I try to do that, and I'm very transparent about my history. I've been, on food. I've had food stamps, cash assistance, and different things like that. So I know both sides. And so my whole thing is, if you've never been through that situation,
you're not going to be.
Yeah. So yeah,
absolutely. Which I feel is the same with mental health, because of the experiences that maybe we have, and not even me myself, but have had to endure. It's something others may not be able to come with a realistic.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad you're doing what you're doing, because I think it's very, very important. I was very intrigued. I will ask, how good are you at walking the walk and talking the talk? I know you said you're trying to balance your schedule, but are you there yet, or is it still a work in progress?
I'm a work in progress, and I tell everyone that. So, and there was a point in time I was really hard on myself, but I was like, you know what? I don't have to be perfect. That's another thing I had to work through, is I don't have to be perfect all the time. I'm going to make mistakes, and just being able to ask people to give me grace, as well as I try to give everyone else grace. So
yeah. I struggle with that as well. That's one of those things for me as well. So it's been wonderful to talk to you, to know that there are other entrepreneurs out there struggling with the same things I'm struggling with.
Yes, absolutely.
Before we go, I want to know, how can we find you?
Sure. Yeah. So we have our website, which is blackwomencultivatingchange.com. And then we are also on social media. So we're on Facebook under Black Women Cultivating Change, as well as Instagram. And then I'm on LinkedIn too, as well, under either Ashley Glass or Black Women Cultivating Change.
Okay.
And if you have any questions, you can always reach out by email. Our Gmail is blackwomencultivatingchange@gmail.com. So,
and I think I saw on your website, you also do speaking engagements, correct?
Yes.
So she's a well-rounded young. Thank you again for agreeing to participate in this show. I think people have learned a lot, not only about the business of health and wellness, in particular with what you do, but just how we need to. There's been a whole new spectrum in the entrepreneurship world about how important that is, and so it's great to talk to someone who knows.
Well, thank you so much again for having me. I appreciate it. And then thank you for all the work that you're doing and spreading this awareness too. I think it's very important. Well needed.
We'll do, and we'll let you know. All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
So, everyone, thank you again for joining us today. I told you this was going to be a good show, but all my shows are good shows, because I knew Ashley would bring to us a wealth of information. We hope you will join us again next time with our next entrepreneur. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great day.